Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Chrissy B Show. And tonight we're going to be speaking about standing your ground at work. Now, you can really love your job, but sometimes people around you, including your employer, your manager, and even your colleagues, can make life really difficult. So on tonight's show, we'll be telling you how to stand up for yourself at work without being aggressive or creating a negative atmosphere. And you're also going to get some tips on body language, ways of speaking, and strategies to help you out at work, because we recorded Sean Brickell. I don't know if you remember him. He came on to talk all about confidence quite recently, so he's going to be helping out a viewer. Now, joining us tonight also, we have business counsellor Anton Smith and also psychotherapist Patricia McGillicuddy. They've been on before as well, and they'll be talking more about sort of common issues that people go through at work and how to deal with them. And later on, I'll also be sharing my top tips on how to deal with sticky situations at work. But first of all, let's talk to Lisa Marie, who's got some news for us, haven't you, Lisa?
I do.
How are you doing?
I'm good, thank
Lovely
you.
orange.
Thank you.
We're all bright today.
We have to brighten it up because this weather has just taken a downturn, hasn't it? Beautiful on Monday and Tuesday,
Yeah,
and
it was
now
lovely Tuesday.
like, bleh. So yeah, we've got to brighten it up a little bit.
Yes.
So I've got some like celeb stories about how other people have managed to overcome during their work. Well, some celebs, some ordinary people. So somebody that I quite admire is an actress called Marley Martin, and she has appeared on a variety of popular TV shows: The West Wing, Desperate Housewives, Seinfeld, Law and Order, ER, just to name a few. And she's also received an Academy Award nomination for Best Actress in 1986 for a movie Children of a Lesser God. And she was also awarded a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 2009. Now, I can only hear you saying that, you know, normal actresses, everyone has this. But the difference with other actresses and Marley Martin is that she was born deaf. And yeah. So she's not let any of that hold her back at all. I mean, she has 4 children. She's been married, I can't remember how many years. And also she did something, it's on a show that I love. Well, I love the UK version and this US version of Dancing with the Stars, or Strictly Come Dancing. And she was actually the first deaf person to participate on Dancing with the Stars. And because it's a live show, to have to go out on a live show every single week when you can't always hear, which you can't hear what's going on, to, you know, other ways to combat it. But that was a really amazing way to overcome and make a mark. Someone else, this person, everyone would know for his voice, James Earl Jones, voice of Darth Vader, Mufasa in The Lion King, and one of my favourite films, King Joffa in Coming to America, going way back when. But he actually he had a stammer.
Oh.
And you would never have known that. For him to be so widely recognised for his voice, he actually had a stammer. And he
still has.
Had a stammer. He was able to overcome it. I know that we've seen, I think we remember a few years ago, Gareth Gates, who, you know, was famous for going on to Pop Idol, I think it was at the time. And he had a ridiculously, you know, I wouldn't say ridiculous, that's not the word. He had a very pronounced stammer is the word I'm looking for, and it affected how he could make himself understood. But then we saw the difference, his journey between having that and then being able to actually make himself understood, you know, having this great career and done so many different things since then, to be able to be on live TV and know you've had a stammer, had all those issues, and yet still be able to overcome. So it's possible. And James Earl Jones, I mean, I saw him live quite recently on in the West End when they did Cat on a Hot Tin Roof as well. Totally amazing. You'd never guess that he had a stammer. Wow. Bethany Hamilton, she was just your ordinary girl next door in California, surfer child. She was a professional surfer. And then at the age, I think she was 18, she lost her arm, which you can see in that picture. She was actually part of her arm was bitten off by a shark in a shark attack, and it eventually actually became a movie called Soul Surfer. But since she has lost her arm, which a lot of people would think you would need that for balance, you know, you wouldn't want to carry on doing that. She has totally carried on being a professional surfer, and so, you know, moving all excuses out of the way, and look at her now, a movie about her life. Totally amazing. And somebody else more on British soil now, he's called Kieran Behan, and he was actually as you can see there, looks fantastic, doing his thing. He's an Irish gymnast, but you would never have guessed that he was confined to a wheelchair at the age of 10 after an operation to remove a tumour in his leg. Just over a year later, he defied the odds to return to training, only to fall off the high bar during training and suffer a head injury which confined him to a wheelchair again. He had to relearn simple skills like sitting up, moving his head, and doctors didn't expect him to even walk again. But 3 years later, he was training
Some people are just fighters, aren't they? They just don't stop.
And he qualified to take part in the London Olympics in 2012 last year. So totally amazing, able to overcome for their professional life. So
that's fantastic. Yeah. Well, Lisa Marie, thank you very much. You're going to be reading some emails for us shortly as well, but we'd like to say hello to our guests for this evening, Anton and Patricia. Lovely to see you back.
It's nice to be back.
We ran out of time last time because we had quite a few questions from viewers, and you know, it's a common thing. Lots of people go through difficult situations at work, and it's something that some people find quite difficult to talk about. So, you know, I'm glad you're both here again to give some insight onto this subject. So,
good to be here.
Let's see, first of all, Patricia, what do you think the main issues are for people at work? Maybe that they wouldn't really want to speak about much. They find it difficult to talk about.
I think the main one is being bullied. I've got to say, you know, we did raise this one last time. I think that's got to be one of the main ones. And the stress and overload of work. And not being able to say, oh, this is too much, because perhaps they feel oppressed by their oppressive boss. I think that would be, that's my experience. That's
well,
what
some
I would
people
think.
say that they're overloaded with work, but sometimes isn't it just a case that they maybe not organised themselves very well, and maybe with a bit of help, they could like do things more efficiently? Could be.
It could be, but I think there are times when people are overloaded with work, and especially lately, I think that there are a lot of people who are doing more than one person's job in today's world. I think that's going on. I do work for an EAP, which is an employment assistance programme, and I do assess people on the phone, and I do hear a lot of that. So people having too much work to do and not actually knowing how to express that to their boss, and even if they do, they feel as if they're unheard.
Do you think they fear to do that because they think, oh, my boss might not consider me for promotion because it's like I can't handle what I've got already?
I think that's in there, Chrissy. I do, yeah. What do you think, Anton?
All of that, I agree with. There's added dimension as well, though. One of which is that people of the peer group can be intimidating. There is a syndrome where there's fear about being the last one to leave the office. There's absolutely no point in hanging around in the office because there's nothing to do. But everybody thinks, I don't want to be the last to leave. What are people? First to leave. Sorry, first to leave.
Okay.
I don't want to be the first to leave. What would everybody else think of me? What's the boss going to think of me? It's a totally ludicrous situation. The other thing is, when we're talking about work, is that so much work is actually unnecessary.
Really? What do you mean?
Well, people get immersed in unnecessary administration, unnecessary paperwork, and sort of diversions that take people's focus away from what they should really be doing.
But if it's the boss that's... Sorry? If it's the actual boss or the manager or it's the style of the company that's put that into place, how can that employee deal with that then?
The way to deal with it, if employees can feel a certain degree of power, which I'm sure we'll start talking about shortly, maybe after the break or at some stage during the programme, is that they can make changes if they have the right equipment, the right tools, and feel confident enough to make those changes. You know, I've been there and I've sort of questioned, say, a chairman who's asked me to do this, and I said, why are we doing this? What's the point of actually doing?
How did that go?
What?
How did that go?
Okay, it was taken okay.
Really? So you never know, do you? Sometimes
not all the time, but there is a, particularly in the electronic age, digital age, if you like, because machines and IT can do certain things and huge calculations and provide a huge amount of information, this syndrome has actually got worse because there is so much obtainable information that people just throw it at others, and 90% of it is irrelevant to the actual task in hand. So it's that syndrome you get, because we can, we'll do it. But is it actually necessary? Probably not, a lot of it.
I think there's the speed of change as well, Chrissy. Yeah. I think, you know, the speed of change of technology, and you know, as soon as somebody's learnt one thing, then the next thing comes in. So the ink isn't dry before the next thing that they have to learn. And that can also be an added pressure to what people are doing. And then you've got emails that are coming in, you know, they're going around the whole office for everybody, and yet you still have to check just to see if the name's in there. I think, you know, and then you just get, you know, a number of emails that don't actually belong to you, but you have to click on it and delete. So there's all of those things, you know. Yeah.
Because everyone just gets copied in.
Yeah, that's right. So there's just added work, you know, and this all adds, I think, to the minutes
to the
of
stress.
And there's another ridiculous fact, well, the ridiculous in my terminology, in my experience, which is, who said time is money? Why is it necessary to do everything at high speed? The problem with doing things at high speed is that irrational and wrong decisions are made. People don't take enough time to think about what they're doing.
I like thinking. I keep talking about thinking on this show because it solves a lot of problems.
I mean, there was a case must have been about 10 years ago, where a marketing department of Hoover, it was, thought up this prize thing, and what they found out was that the prize they were giving away was more valuable, if my memory is right, more valuable than the Hoovers that they were selling, because nobody had thought through the arithmetic, and they had to withdraw the promotion because they were losing millions of quid. You know, so that puts pressure on people. You know. Time constraints, deadlines and all those sort of things.
Well, we're going to be helping our viewers tonight, so we're going to be opening the phone lines as well. If you have a question, you don't need to give your name, you know, it can be completely anonymous. So if you have a question, you're going through something at work and you're not sure how to deal with it, please do give us a call on 020 7686 6300. And if you're more comfortable to send an email, the email address is chris@chrissybshow.tv. Now we do have some emails already that Lisa Marie is going to be reading for us, and then we'll join us after this.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Chrissy B Show, always aiming to show you the happier side of life. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to the show, and we're speaking about standing your ground at work. So let's go to some street interviews first of all.
So I'm here in Covent Garden to find out the work issues people have had and how they've coped with them. Come on, let's go. Have you ever had any issues at work?
No. I'm very happy at my job.
Are you just saying that because your manager's here?
But I wouldn't go with him to lunch if I didn't like him. So.
That's true.
I once had a work issue with my boss, and we had a complete difference of opinion, and we had this backwards and forwards banter, shouting. And in the end, I just said to him, "Look, you're the boss. I'll agree to disagree." Walked away, and then half an hour later, he called me back to the office, and I think, "Oh my God, you know, I'm going to be fired." And he gave me this really special project.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. That's unusual.
So that was a long time ago.
But do you think you made the right choice by standing up to him?
Absolutely.
Like shoplifters, for example, people trying to nick things in the store. So it's like a.
And how do you handle the situation?
Basically, I try to follow the procedure by tackle the stop them at the exit or something, or talking to them, and try to use use my brain instead of violence or any kind of
My last job was there's a bit of drama sometimes, and it's a bit difficult being in that environment. I wasn't really involved in it, but I can.
What was happening? Can you tell me a little bit briefly about what was happening?
I think it's just more to do with egos and people like treading on each other's responsibilities and not really knowing your boundaries, like what your role is and what the other person's role is. And
so do you think it's important to know where you are in the company and what role you are?
Yeah, absolutely, and kind of just be more patient with people.
Well, yeah, I had, but you know, now I think I deal very well.
Okay, how did you deal with it?
Well, I'm a funny guy, I try to be nice all the time.
Yeah.
Even when he's got crazy, I try to be more nice and more lovely, and that works.
Really?
Yes.
All right, that's good. That's a good tip. How do you find it when you have to like speak to someone and tell them off about their performance?
Well, you don't tell them off, you just give them reasons and you give them a bit of discipline and you give them enough chances rather than just being black and white. So it's a very paternalistic style of management.
Yeah. So would you say, in your own opinion, you quite an angry manager or a nice manager?
Ask this boy,
I'm going to ask you.
He's a laid-back manager, best manager I've ever had, honestly.
So when talking about work issues, it seems like we've got a really good working system. People seem really confident and positive when they're talking about work and their issues, and they actually seem like they handle it quite well as well. And they've also told us today that employers seem to be quite fair the way they treat workers as well, which is really good.
That is really good, but I know that's not the case with a lot of people out there. So maybe Bianca just happened to come across some people that can deal with things really well. But what about the ones that can't? Well, what did you think of the interviews there, what people were saying?
It, to me, revealed quite a broad cross-section of experiences at work. I liked the two guys who came on at the end for the second time was talking about clearly a good managerial style. You know,
taking your workers out for lunch and stuff.
I'd say paternalistic, I think maybe is a little bit, not quite the right word. I would use the word collaborative, democratic and those sort of words. But paternalistic was fine.
We'll let him get away with it.
But I think the guy, yeah, that's fine. That's all right.
I
think the guys who were talking about the guy who's talking about egos hit the nail on the head in terms of the difficulties that people experience at work.
Yeah.
Egos are the most damaging aspects in those sort of situations. People are trying to prove stuff, they want to be number one, they like to dominate and all that sort of thing, and that creates an awful lot of clashes, a lot of hopelessness, powerlessness and all that sort of thing, where people just give up and say, actually, I can't fight this, I can't do anything about it.
But can they do something about it?
Well, there's ways in which you can deal with it. The important thing is to understand the dynamics of what's going on between you and another person. What's lying behind the words, what's lying behind the actions, and try to read that. And focusing on one's own issues in terms of, if you've got a dominant boss, do you feel like a child in his or her presence? So do you sort of fall back into child mode and behave in a way which is very compromising and sort of put yourself in a powerless position because that's what you feel and that's what you're carrying.
Give us some tips. What can we tell the viewers?
Yeah, I'm just hearing what Anton was saying there about the dynamics and people falling into roles, but that would also be something to do with their patterns of behaviour and the way that they are in life and how they can often fall into that role, and they might find themselves just falling into that role. When they see that they're in that role, that's when the changes can be made. Yeah, so we were talking about how do you go about making the changes. Well, that would be about how you change your language. How are you speaking with the boss? Are you speaking from being the child? We heard the guy say that it was paternalistic. So what does he expect, that his staff come in and behave like children? I have to look at that and say, well, were they behaving like children? So how does he deal with that when they come in the room? Does he sit them down and say, "Now you were a really naughty boy, weren't you?" Or does he say, "You know, what you've been doing is really great work, and you know, we can see here that this was good and this was good, but we just want to have a look at this and see what changes we can make." Right. Now that's speaking with the other person on an adult level and giving them credit for the work that they can do. And that will also bring that person up to that level and say, "Oh, actually, I feel relaxed here, I can be myself." And so it is about how people are approaching each other in the office, I think.
Let's take a couple of questions, first of all, from our viewers.
Okay.
Questions.
One person says, "I always feel nervous during presentations and don't do as well as I think I could. So can you give me some tips on confidence?"
Who wants to answer that?
As much as possible to be oneself, you know, and to feel confident that what you're presenting is going to be come across effectively. The other thing, what a lot of people miss about presentations is most of the time the audience don't actually know what it is that you want to say.
So you can say anything.
The fear is you're going to forget to do that aspect, or you're going to forget to do this aspect.
True.
But actually the audience don't know that. True. And it often puts a few people off. I mean, I've done it myself. I've done a presentation, everything's going fine. And then I suddenly, oh God, I didn't say that. And I have done in the past, go to pieces. But the audience don't know any different. You know, they don't know you were going to say that.
Yeah, and I think there's another aspect to that, and that would be that you know more than the audience does. So open it up, ask them some questions, or let them ask you some questions, and then you have the answers to give because they've asked that question. So allow yourself to know what you know.
Yeah, and also try and establish what the level of knowledge is in your audience. I mean, if you're addressing 200 people, you're not going to be able to do that. But if you're doing a seminar with 10 or 12 people, try and establish at what level they're at so you can pitch what it is you need to say at the right level.
Okay. Next question is, I have never had a good working relationship with my boss as he is very abrasive. How can I turn this around so that I'm able to move ahead in my career?
How do you approach your boss in the morning? Do you walk in and say good morning? Do you ask him how he is? Have you asked him about his family? It's just little things. Find out about him. Who is he? And this will open him up to the softer side, because there's got to be a softer side to this guy. So get him to talk about himself a little bit. You know, and maybe in the kitchen, when you're making a cup of tea, ask him how he's doing. And
just make a cup of tea and just put it there on his desk. That's what I used to do at my old work. Really nice boss, but I used to make him a cup of tea before he got in and already had it on his desk. And we used to get on really well, and he used to do the same for me afterwards. So we had a really great relationship.
Yeah, it's about building that, isn't it? It's about building how you talk to each other, Chrissy, I think, in the office. Yeah.
And also, if one's on the end of something which is, unpleasant, let's say, ask, why did you say that? Why did you behave like that? Well, I don't understand why you're doing it, because it makes me feel this. Makes me feel angry, it makes me feel powerless, makes me feel... And let the person know that that's the effect he or she is having on you.
Yeah, it's important.
Okay, any more? Yeah, someone has said, how do I approach my boss for a pay rise? Should I wait? I think they're going along etiquette here. Should I wait for my appraisal, or am I able to do it at any time?
Do you know what? I think first of all, because some people have the audacity to ask for pay rises when they come in late every day, they don't do their best at work. So I think you have to really make sure, first of all, that you are putting the work in. It's not to say that you're overworking yourself, but at least the basics you should be doing, coming to work on time, not leaving too early, things like that. So some people forget that and they just want to demand promotions. Yeah. And then they wonder why, and then they think it's unfair when they don't get one.
You need to keep a very accurate record of your achievements within the workplace, and to have sufficient awareness to know where your fallibilities and weaknesses have been and the mistakes you've been. So you are totally aware, and you have a good perspective on yourself. And if you can say to yourself, I deserve more money, then you're likely to be more authentic in asking for the rise.
Yeah, because you won't have that confidence to ask for the pay rise. You're going to go in there, I think I should get this, when you don't deserve it.
You have to be a bit of a politician. You have to be a bit of a politician.
And I think
and work out and strategize when the right time is.
Yeah, I would say, round about the appraisal time, actually, if you've had a good appraisal, then it might be worth saying at the end of an appraisal, perhaps we could discuss a pay rise. I've been here for a period of time, and you need to be in a place for a period of time before you ask for that pay rise. And know your worth.
And be aware of the company's policy on pay rise.
Yeah.
If you're a member of a union, can help you.
Okay. We're going to have more questions after the break because we've run out of time, but we're going to take more questions, Chris at chrissybshow.tv, and afterwards as well we're going to show you a video of a young lady that spoke to someone regarding her confidence, and it was actually Sean Brickell, and he showed her how to change her posture and her body language in order to be more confident at work. So we'll be seeing that after this.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Chrissy B Show, always aiming to show you the happier side of life. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back. We've had quite an interesting question come through, which we're going to be answering after this video of a young lady called Tilia, who's getting some confidence tips from Sean Brickell. Let's take a look.
Here comes Sean, our confidence expert,
Tilia, hi. Thanks very much.
who's come to help Tilia, who seems to be in a bit of a pickle at work.
Hiya. Hello, Tilia. How are you?
Hi. Nice to meet you. Thank you for coming.
Pleasure. Thank you very much. So, Tilia, how can I help you?
So basically, a lot of things have been going on at work. There's things with my managers. My managers make me feel as if I don't do anything right. They make me feel as if, like, there's something wrong in everything that I do. So it makes me second guess everything that I do. Like, if I go to a customer and the customer is like asking me for something, I second guess myself. When you're being just put down, it's just, I don't know. It's just not
So
nice.
basically your self-esteem has been affected and you doubt your abilities to do your job well.
Yeah.
Because your subconscious mind at the moment is probably going, I'm not that talented, I'm not as talented as I thought I was, I'm not very effective, I'm probably not as good, and it probably affects your posture, and therefore people will react to you. As your posture, as your heart and soul and attitude shrinks, so will your physical posture as well, which in turn will reinforce the maybe very negative view that these managers have. So let's just stand up for a second. So, first thing I do is you could probably add another inch or two to your height. At the moment you're like this, a bit round shoulder. Just put your shoulders back for a second. That's it. Now lift your head. And imagine you've got an imaginary fishing line just coming out of here and it's being pulled up, tugged up very gently. And that's, okay, that's you. And just walk, extend the neck, not so you're sticking your chin up too much, but just almost like you're being lifted up. You feel your upper body lifting, your shoulders are relaxed and down by their back, your neck is up and you're standing already. And what will happen is start imprinting this on your mind. Move foot slightly farther apart, maybe one in front of the other. Imagine you're addressing something really important, you are the boss. Think of yourself as if you're the boss, you're talking to somebody and you're important and warmly important and you'll feel differently. For instance, you could do one where you go, okay, this is like laying the law. Let's get something clear. And it's like you're nailing it in with your finger. It's a subconscious thing. Let's get something clear. You do it with one or both. You said, let's get something clear. You say I did this, and if it isn't true, say, you know I didn't. You know, I worked really hard. It's one store for 6 hours. I couldn't do anything, and there's been 2 people, just me on my own. I didn't complain, I just did the job, and you know that. So, what really is the issue here?
Now Tilia's changed into her new empowering, confident work clothes. And here's our brand new Tilia, oozing confidence. So, just to recap. Point 1, posture. Remember, no slouching, shoulders back, and if it helps, use the imaginary fishing line to pull your head up. Point 2, standing position. Feet waist width apart, with one foot slightly in front of the other. Remember, what you have to say is important. Stand like a boss. Point 3, hands. Use hand gestures to be assertive and to display confidence in what you are saying. So finally, good luck with your quest for gaining confidence in your workplace.
Thank you very much, Tilia and Sean. I hope that was helpful for our viewers. Now, Lisa, tell me the email that you've got there, please.
No problem, Chrissy. Maybe that's not the right kind of hand gesture.
What was that? Go on, Anton, you can do yours.
We'll go around the room. Okay. So, how do I tell my manager that his personal hygiene is bad? He has bad breath and sometimes smells of body odour, but how do I tell him without him being offended?
And without you being sacked?
Well, first of all, choose the right moment. First of all, think about it, think what mood is he in, choose the right time, maybe get him on his own, not in front of other people. I think that's the most important thing. And these things are always delicate. He may feel really embarrassed, and showing him some empathy about that, but also saying, you know, this isn't good.
Is it better to send an email, do you think, or tell him in person?
Well, it's always easy
an
to
anonymous email.
Yeah, where from? Which email?
Yes.
He's in touch with the IT bloke.
Yeah.
So, what do you think, Anton?
First of all, it needs to be done because it's not only you or the person who's written the email, but everybody else in the company will feel likewise. But it's an act of kindness because I'm sure no one wants to be smelly, whether it's, you know, orally or bodily. And if they're not aware that that is the case, they're going to be grateful to hear it. It may be very, very difficult to say, but it is an act of kindness, and I think it needs to be seen that way rather than an act that is fearful, you know, is anxiety. I mean, it's a difficult thing to say, you know.
It is.
But, and has its anxiety associated with it, but it does need
Good
to
luck
be
with
done.
that.
Yeah.
You can do that.
Yeah, rather than me, I have to say.
We had a comment as well from someone
that
went
we
through
did.
something recently.
So I'll try to summarise because this email is a little bit long. But Carmen from North London is saying that about a month ago, she had to stand her ground at work because she's being, in this is her words, ridiculed, humiliated, mistreated and disrespected by her line manager. So she said that on a Friday, on this particular Friday when this kind of blew up, her manager, she would reply to her questions in an angry way. She was fine with that because she said that each time she'd ask her if there's any problems and the manager would just reply, no, Carmen. Suddenly, she said her manager started an argument with another officer of her grade, and this officer was complaining and telling her things that she already knew. But she's being said that she's being treated like rubbish. So then suddenly they both started to argue with Carmen about who would manage her. And then at the time she was shouting at her saying, Carmen, you better do what I order you to do, otherwise you will be sacked. Carmen said her blood was boiling and she said to her, do whatever you believe is right, but this is the last time you speak to me in this manner. And she wasn't expecting that reply, it seems, because then she stood up and started to shout even more and attempt to slap her. She said so many, how crazy is that? She said so many colleagues of hers were around witnessing what was going on. And then the chief manager, she's put here, said that he took her to a private room to apologise for everything and then took note of everything what happened, and all the colleagues that were witnesses there supported her. So she started to take legal advice, she said, and take steps towards doing what she did to do. She first tried to speak to the manager in an amicable way, but she didn't want to know. So at this time then, her line manager's manager appointed someone else to manage Carmen. And then apparently, after it was all made public, other managers within the organisation offered her other positions and a better salary. Other people valued the work that she was doing and her reputation as an excellent officer. And they didn't want to lose her, basically, when she said that she was going to leave because of all the things that were happening. So she stood her ground and got some great benefits.
Great. Good for her. Indeed. That's quite a difficult situation.
That is a difficult situation. My first thoughts are what was the chief manager doing, not stopping the manager shouting at her in the first instance and taking her aside.
And almost hitting her.
That's hitting her, yeah.
I wonder what happened to that manager then, if she was disciplined.
Who knows? She hasn't said exactly what happened.
It sounds like a serious case for HR. And
definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It illustrates the need to be vigilant in terms of, if you're experiencing this sort of behaviour, to make sure that you have witnesses to what's going on, to take notes of every conversation, to confirm by email that conversation took place with the person that you've had the confrontation with, so that everything remains provable. That's at the pragmatic legal level. And if it comes to anything else, and legal stuff,
That is
then you've got
important
the
to
stuff.
keep all the evidence.
Very,
Sometimes
very
when you
important to do it.
have that situation with someone, they even try to make you think that certain things didn't happen.
Exactly.
I didn't say that to you.
Yeah.
Are you sure? And if you don't have that evidence and you don't write things down, and you don't save
And
those emails.
never be alone. If the manager calls you into the office and you know that there's this behaviour behind everything she or he does, then don't go in there alone.
Yeah.
You know.
Very good
Just
point.
don't go in there
Very
alone.
good point. Definitely.
And there are other ways and techniques that teams of people can get together and learn how to understand the dynamics of what's going on. And Patricia used the expression up-manage the manager, so that the team doesn't get affected by that sort of behaviour. And that's the sort of work we do with corporates, or are about to do with corporates, which is helping people find that sort of depth to themselves, that they have the confidence to be able to do what's necessary in order for the company to be successful. Because this sort of behaviour
is a win-win situation, isn't it? When everyone's happy and everyone knows where they stand and they can communicate, well, everyone wins at the end of the day.
That sort of behaviour that was being described is creates negative productivity.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what this lady learned was that she was good at her job because other people... And
she's very confident. She said she's an excellent...
And
whatever it was.
Yeah, I had something kind of similar to her, but she wasn't threatening to slap me. I had a manager, this is when I used to work in retail, and we were doing like a morning walk through. There was some piles of leaflets on the cash desk that weren't supposed to be there. And when I went to remove it after she pointed it out, she actually shoved them on the floor. So I turned to her and I said, I'm not picking them up and I'm not telling anyone else to do it either. And then I walked away. And then a few minutes after, she went behind the cash desk, picked them up herself and came to apologise to me. For some people,
good for you, Lisa. I'm going to go to a quick break because we've almost finished. So join us after this.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Chrissy B Show, always aiming to show you the happier side of life. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter.
Okay, so now I'd like to answer a what would Chrissy do question from a viewer, and they say, hi Chrissy, what do you do if you love your job, get on well with your boss, but are getting a hard time from certain fellow employees? I have goals for my career and often stay behind after hours or go to work earlier, and I'm constantly faced with snide comments and even rumours that I fancy my boss. It's so stressful to deal with. Now, they're asking what I would do in this situation. Well, do you know what? Anytime anyone has a goal, they have a dream for their life, you will face jealousy, you will face criticism, especially if other people aren't pulling their weight and you are. You're going to immediately stand out. And unfortunately, that comes with some of these things that you're experiencing. I would probably try and have a word with those employees first of all. I would let them know, look, you know, it's not on. I think it's quite childish. I'm just trying to do my job. Normally, that doesn't really work. It doesn't stop people like that. I'm sorry, but we're all going to have to face it wherever we are. Although I believe everyone can change, but have a word with them first. I would also speak to my boss and tell him or her what's going on. And just, you know, so they're aware of the rumours that are going on, just so there's no sort of uncomfortable feelings between that are created there. And at the end of the day, if you're there for a purpose, you're there for a reason, your dream, your goals, you have, you know, to progress in your career. So I would just ignore them as well. I know it's hard sometimes, but if you've tried speaking to your boss, you've tried speaking to them, as long as it's not getting too out of hand, in which case you'd have to bring in personnel and for them to help as well, I would just ignore it, because I think anywhere you go, you're going to get people like that, unfortunately. I don't know what you both think as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Anything to add?
I was going to add, actually. I know that you know I'm also a singer-songwriter, and you know, these going out to open mic nights, as you go, when you first arrive, everything's fine, and as you start to sing and people want to see you more and they want you called up more, then it becomes a jealousy thing.
It does.
And I have a manager, and I took it to my manager, and my manager said, you know, get used to it.
It's true, you have to be.
You want to rise in your job, people are going to be jealous. There's going to be those who really don't want to rise in their job. They're quite happy to sit where they are. But there's those who want to get there but don't want to do the work to get there.
Right, that's true.
And that person is doing the work to get there. So I would say get the support you need outside of work, and you continue doing what you're doing and you rise to where you want to be.
Because you're not going to be with those people forever anyway, are you?
No,
If you've got ambition, if you've got dreams, unfortunately then you're going to face other ones, but anyway, to deal with it.
Just a quick comment, there's a thread through all the examples we've heard which is about self-esteem. And if you are a hard worker, if you're good, if you're exceptional at what you do, as Patricia says, you're going to attract jealousy and envy. But if your self-esteem is intact and you support yourself with either workshops or facilitating your self-esteem so that it's growing and it's intact, you're going to simply be that classic person, you know, water off a duck's back type person. You just won't notice it. You simply won't notice it.
I think
you will notice it, but you will remain intact.
It won't affect you.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I think you need to expect these kind of things, and once you expect sometimes the worst in some situations, when it doesn't happen, okay, you're all right, but at least you've prepared yourself mentally in a sense for that. Because it is going to happen in anything that you try to do, where you're trying to, you know, if you're starting your own business or any ambition that you have, you're always going to get those negative people that will try to put you down.
And I think if you're moving into the position, or you want to be in a position of power, you want to be a manager, and managing a team, you've got to have a certain amount of toughness about you. You've got to be able to take the flak, because it's going to happen. So if you've got a good support system outside of work, people that you can talk to, you're supporting yourself, I think that would be the way forward. But I agree with the point about speaking to the boss and saying this is what's happening, because if it goes back to the boss,
then it's going to create
via somebody else, then you know it's your word against theirs. Whereas if you've gone and said this is happening, and you know it's not happening. But I think that's a really delicate situation, actually, in a place of work. I think that's something you have to be really careful with.
If you're not aware of the politics and the nature of your boss, you could actually invoke in him or her the fear that you're trying to take his or her job.
That's right.
You know, that's why you have to be a strategist and a politician.
Do you know what I think really helps me deal with certain situations, and I think will help the viewers as well. And I had some tips, but I think this kind of summarizes everything, is try to understand other people, because I don't believe people are nasty or horrible or say bad things and create difficult situations for no reason. I normally think there's an underlying problem in that person's life. Maybe they're going through something at home, maybe they've had a bad day, a bad morning, maybe something's happened that they're not able to speak to someone about it, so they end up doing certain things, expressing it in a negative way. So and this isn't just at work, anywhere you are, if you see someone suddenly ignores you, for example, instead of getting upset, instead of distancing yourself from that person, try and understand. Maybe say to yourself, oh, maybe something's happened, maybe they're going through a bad time, maybe they're ill, because some people go through certain sicknesses, they have certain things going on in their body and they don't tell anyone about. So we have to try, I think the best way to deal with certain situations is try to understand the other person's point of view. And also, if you are in some kind of dispute, don't just think you're right automatically. It's my way, I think I'm right. And you don't sort of pay attention to what the person's saying. You're not really listening to their point of view. I think it's really important to actively listen. I know sometimes we say, oh yeah, I'm a good listener, but are we really listening to that person? Are we trying to understand, or are we just waiting for them to finish so we can come back with all the justifications about why what they've just said is wrong? So I think it's very, very important to actively listen and understand the other person. And I think that just those things alone will solve a whole load of problems in the workplace.
Yeah, and I think there's also noticing that somebody is having a hard time and then approaching the right people and saying, you know, I just want to say this anonymously, but I think, you know, this person's having a difficult time, perhaps you could have a meeting with them, and offering, because sometimes people don't know how to ask for the support that they need.
I think it's lovely if you actually even go to the person and say, look, is everything okay? Just that is enough to show someone that you care, because we're all so busy sometimes getting on with our work and doing what we have to do, but you know, if you do notice someone looking a bit sad or looking a bit teary, just go and say, look, do you want to talk about anything? Are you okay? That just makes all the difference. At least you've noticed them.
Even if it is your line manager or somebody higher up, you know, if you notice
they
something.
go through problems as well. They're human.
We're all human beings. You know?
That's right.
We all need compassion, you know.
And you know,
I thought we should sing a song now to end the show.
You know, when you and just to follow on from what Anton said, you know, this is a part of an answer to the question that was asked earlier. You know, how do I approach my boss? Well, Ask him how he is, you know, what's going on for you today. And that way it makes the working environment so much easier if he's got a space to air and say, oh, well, yeah, I'm sorry it was a bit ratty earlier on, you know, I've had a bit of a difficult weekend with the kids. They were arguing a lot and I've brought it into work. I'm sorry about that. You know, you never know what's going to come out from that person.
And it doesn't have to be touchy-feely, you know, it just be normal behaviour. You know, what do we do with it in talking to each other? We ask how we are. We ask how you, how the kids are. No reason why it shouldn't happen at work.
Well, we've finished for today. I hope that's really helped our viewers. Thank you, Lisa Marie. Thank you, Patricia and Anton. It's great having you back again.
Good to see you.
And I'm sure we're going to do another programme soon that's going to help people at work. So that's all we've got time for, but do join us again on Monday for another show. And have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. If you want more information about our guests tonight and more information about the show in general, you can go to the website chrissybshow.tv. Bye-bye for now.
But yeah, nothing special really.
Okay, next question. All right then, so next one, yeah? One more. Okay.
Next question.
Okay. Yeah? When you finished?
Yeah. Fair enough. Woo! Daniel, no, we've got like one more question.
Okay, so let's go and have a chat to them.
Let's go.
Find out the truth. That was stupid, I didn't need to do that.